Welcome to Exhibition. And hello, Rosemary Valadon.
Oh, hello, Richard.
Lovely to see you there in your studio at Hill End. And it looks as though it's a bit chilly there at the moment.
Oh, yes, it's raining and it was, below zero at night again. But we'll eventually get back to spring.
Let's hope so. We are going to be looking today at your exhibition, which is simply entitled New Paintings at Wagner Contemporary in Sydney. And when we look at these paintings, they're luscious, they're sensual, they celebrate the senses. Is this, in the creation of them, is this a deliberate counterpoint to the austerities of lockdown?
Yes, definitely. Yes, lovely things, beautiful glasses and cocktail shakers and all of that.
That sense of them being, wonderfully luscious and positive and kind of delicious looking things, is that something you very much set out to do?
Yes, absolutely. It was this time. I couldn't bear feeling downtrodden anymore and nothing to look forward to. Whereas in the evening, I do look forward very much to a nice little tipple of something or other. But anyway, yes, I thought I would celebrate that element of COVID and lockdown this time. I didn't want to be miserable, couldn't bear that.
And the viewer of these paintings will be able to share in that sense of things of delight that you've tried to bring to their attention. Can you give us a little bit of a sense when you're deciding what to paint, what kind of subject matter you choose to bring into the works?
Well, when I decided that I shouldn't feel too concerned about my level of alcohol consumption, I thought I should make this as beautiful as possible and delicious as possible. I've got a huge table here, which I use for still life, and I put all the objects on there. And then I just sort of go into a sort of neutral space in my head and put them together and work out feelings. How do I feel about that? And a lot of it was the roundness of certain fruit and then the crispness of the glass and things like that. But objects that you could totally identify with and you can feel in your mind when you look at them is my intention, to make it very recognizable and feel that you're going to pick that object up.
You mention, for example, the roundness of fruit and the crispness of edges. And in a work, for example, like Night Music, there is the melon, which I presume you have cut very precisely. So there are these sharp but quite delicious edges. So, it seems as though there's quite a degree of strategy that goes into the aesthetics of planning the objects, let alone painting them.
Well, I think that's the delight part for me. I mean, that's quite exciting, and recognizing themes that start coming through the work. And the triangles are very common themes. And as I was putting the stripes to put this sort of regular shape in, there are also circles and triangles forming constantly. So then I can push that, like with the melon. I think the melon's sort of funny because it's sitting there like this precious jewel with all its nasty little cut edges. Anyway, it's things like that. It amuses me. So that's why I do it.
You talk about the stripes and the circular forms and the triangular forms. Is there a degree of formality of composition that is inherent in your still life works?
Yes, they're not chaos. I mean, I see everything in a sort of compositional sense, and I'm always looking at shape and juxtaposition and how things relate to each other. It's just, intrinsic. But yeah, they are sort of formal.
And yet there is a lightness of touch as well in a work, for example, like Watermelon Medley. there's a great saturation of colour and yet a real lightness, a sense of fun in the painting as well.
Yeah, that was fun. You know, I was with the watermelon, so I started cutting it up into all these shapes. And I just started cutting the little circles and the cubes and the triangles and assembling them like building blocks and having fun, basically. Yeah, and just developing themes wherever they come.
You are, in a sense, almost being a theatre or film director, an image director and creator, because many of these works almost look as though it's a theatre set. You know, there's theatrical lighting with deep shadows. Even, for example, in Night Music, I think there's the reflection in a deliberately placed mirror. Do you feel as though you are, in a way, building theatre sets and then lighting and painting them?
Yeah, absolutely. All my life, even as a teenager, I was doing that, arranging things. I had this mad desire to arrange things and present them. And then with the shadows, I love shadows and watching how shadows are formed and how they bounce one to the next. And yeah, I just love doing that. It's my sort of mindset. If you got in my mind, you'd see that all the time.
Not only is much of the subject matter in these works luscious and sensuous, but the paint use is as well, or seems to be. What is your approach to paint? How do you feel about applying it and what people should see of it?
Yeah, these ones are quite painterly. They're more painterly than others I've done, other still life. I think it's trying to get the life into the still life as much as possible. So you feel that you can actually enter that picture plane and you see all the brushstrokes. So it's got that, the difference between pretense, you know, making 3 dimensions out of 2 dimensions and that illusion. But I really was enjoying the paint itself this time and using a fair bit of palette knife and smaller brushes and sort of flicking up the surface a little bit.
We've talked primarily about still life works, and this exhibition is very much focused in that direction, and we'll come back to more works from the exhibition very shortly. But in your lengthy, illustrious career, there has also been some substantial focus on portraiture as well. In fact, I remember coming across you as an artist for the very first time back in about 1991, when, as the ABC TV newsreader of the time, I actually announced the story of you winning the Portia Geach Portrait Prize in that year. And of course, there have been many portraits before and since then. But portraiture for you, how do you approach that, and what are you looking for?
I think I approach it very similarly to still life, in that I still arrange people in a space and with what they're sitting on and whatever. But try and get the essence of the person coming through. So I have to feel like I know the person. So there needs to be a theme too behind my relationship with the person. And
you painted on a couple of occasions portraits of Germaine Greer. And just thinking of you saying, you know, you have to kind of organize people into the places you want them. So you were there organizing Germaine Greer in one case as Artemis, the huntress.
I know, she was wonderful enough to sit for me when I was doing a series of Australian women as archetypal figures, and she's very much a Diana Artemis person. Very striking, amazing woman.
You explored a number of female portraits in a wonderful series some years ago called Wicked Women. Can you tell us the basis of that, and again what you were looking to try to explore or create in those women?
Yes, Wicked Women was a fabulous project. I was doing a residency at the Justice and Police Museum in Sydney and came across all these pulp fiction novels and pictures, and then Tara Moss opened a show they had there of femme fatale. So I actually asked her if she would be my first one, and she agreed. So I painted her as Murder by the Book. And then it led on to other people that I met and were interested. So in the end, I did about 12 people, 12 women over four years. So yeah, that was a fabulous time.
We've talked about many of these positive visions, but occasionally a slightly darker side creeps in, and your large work, Table of Broken Things, maybe hinted at things that are a bit less comfortable in some ways. Can you briefly tell us a bit about that work?
It was going through the drought up here, the 3 years of drought we had was heartbreaking, and watching the animals die and die of starvation, basically. And it was terrible for everyone experiencing this sort of right on the ground. So the Table of Broken Things was a magpie that had just fallen dead in the garden. Beautiful magpie. And I have now, after all my still life paintings, I have collected a lot of cups and saucers and stuff, and so many of those are broken. And anyway, I just put them all together, this beautiful bird and broken things and broken jewelry and stuff like that, through the depression that I think everyone was feeling, including myself, and painted them as a homage, really.
Returning to this exhibition itself, which again has been painted in troubled and difficult times. In, for example, the work Lucky Lady, we can just read on the piece of paper there, or the document there, save water and drink champagne. So,
Oh, well
is it a
done.
case of enjoy things or just drown your sorrows?
Yeah, well, that serviette was given to me by a friend, and it just suited us completely because we drink a lot of champagne. And yeah, I thought it was a great ethos anyway.
And of course, also there are various other works. There is the gin bottle, and we see a cocktail shaker, a very shiny cocktail shaker, pop up on a number of occasions.
Yeah, with a lean.
Presumably things like the cocktail shaker also provide a lovely opportunity to explore reflection and light and distortion to some extent.
Yeah, I'm a total sucker for that, for surface changes and reflections. And peaches reflect in one of the shakers, and I thought that was great. Yeah, and I love the sort of mystery of it and the random shapes that occur with all these different reflections. So I bought 2 golden goblets as well, which are in some of the watermelon paintings. And they were brilliant. They were so highly polished that they reflected multiple shapes. Yeah, I love that. I really love doing that deception, and they change the colors too. I mean, the colors become like this absolute design, like a very clever design. My eyes really enjoy that.
Well, there are many elements of delight to discover in the works. So, Rosemary Valadon, thanks very much for sharing your exhibition with us.
Oh, thank you, Richard, so much.